Hey everyone, Travis and Chad here, cruising along on our fifth video. Sodium is our heart-healthy topic today. Now, just about everyone knows the connection between salt and high blood pressure, and high blood pressure raises your risk for heart disease. But Chad, we need salt, right?
Yeah, we do. The human body requires sodium, and there's a lot of sodium in salt. 40% of salt is actually sodium. We do need something to be healthy, and even though we do need sodium, the problem with sodium is that most Americans get way too much than we need to be healthy.
So, all we have to do is make sure that our listeners cut back on the salt shaker and problem solved.
Yeah, that sounds good, and I wish it were that simple, but, truth be told, when you look at the average American, our main source of sodium isn't coming from the salt shaker. Most of us, about 70% of our sodium intake is coming from the sodium in prepackaged foods, convenience foods. And when we go out to eat, fast food, some restaurants, that's where we're getting the bulk of our sodium. So that's where we really have to be careful.
Wow, that kind of sounds the same as the scenario with added sugar in all the products that we buy at the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like the processed foods and the hidden sugars. We could start to see how all these tips in these videos are related to each other. If you remember, like our first video was about eating minimally processed foods. And if you start doing that more, you're automatically going to start curbing your sodium intake, as well as, the sugar and other harmful ingredients that, bad fats and things like that hide out in those things.
Well, that isn't too bad. Kind of a good general guideline to follow would be eat less processed foods and it will help reduce the sodium in your diet.
Yeah.
It makes sense. But before we get to the recipe, I'm sure you have a couple of other tips for our viewers to help them make a big dent in their sodium intake.
Sure do. Along with generally trying to eat less processed foods, here's what else you can do. You can know your numbers. Most of us should average between 1,500 and 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day. And a little FYI, there's about 2,300 milligrams of sodium just in 1 teaspoon of table salt. And that's a lot. So between the salt shaker, what you're adding to your foods, and what you see in the prepackaged foods, 2,300 milligrams is pretty much where you want to stop. And you could also look at it this way, keep your meals under 600 milligrams of sodium. So if you buy like a, packaged entree meal and this is all you're going to eat, you want to basically top off at 600 milligrams per meal. If you're looking at a single food or a smaller snack, basically keep those to 300 milligrams of sodium or less when we're talking about those sodium levels. At the grocery store, whether they're fresh, canned, or frozen, make sure your vegetables have no salt added to them. There's no benefit in that. And when eating out, you might want to ask that there be no salt added to your meal, or ask for, a nutrition information card or some information about the food there. It's really not the easiest thing to do when you're at restaurants and things like that. So even easier is to consider making more of your meals at home in the first place, where you can control the sodium level. And another thing is to be aware of the salty six. These popular foods tend to be really high in sodium, and you're familiar with all of these. Breads and rolls, pizza, sandwiches, cold cuts and cured meats, soups, tacos and burritos. Those are the salty six. And those are all delicious foods, don't get me wrong, I eat those, but here you especially want to look for low sodium versions and cut corners, like having vegetables on top of your pizza instead of cured meats and salty meats. Those are going to jack up the sodium big time. Maybe just have one piece of pizza and pair it with a veggie heavy salad with some low sodium dressing. There's another idea. You want to get comfortable using alternatives and substitutes to season your food, either while you're cooking or after you're done preparing the food. So you want to use less salt, use herbs, spices, citrus fruits, the juices of citrus fruits, vinegars, low sodium broths. All these kinds of options add very little to no sodium to your meal, and you would agree there's tons of flavor in those things, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So lastly, just Google DASH diet, DASH. The DASH diet, it's a great strategy to lower sodium and improve heart health. So do yourself a favor and research the DASH diet. And that's basically it for me, Travis, on sodium. Now, I'm going to turn it over to you for a recipe our viewers could really see themselves doing, something realistic. What do you have in store for us that's lower in sodium?
Well, after hearing about the salty six and feeling attacked, we're going to go after tacos. As salty as they are when you buy the kits from the supermarket, I'm going to show you how to pack them full of flavor with half the sodium.
Right on, Travis. Show us how it's done.
Let's go.
So we are going to use some lean ground turkey for these tacos. We're going to make them meat tacos, but keep it lean with 93% lean ground turkey. I'm going to dump that right into a hot skillet to start the browning process. If you're looking for vegetarian tacos, feel free to use refried beans, black beans, or any kind of beans for this recipe. A little tip from Travis is taking a sturdy whisk and using that to break up your ground meat. Tends to work a little bit better in the beginning so you don't end up with just a meat pancake in your skillet. And while your meat is cooking, you can take some time and prepare some of the fixings. Travis is going to keep it simple with some sliced cherry tomatoes, a little bit of lettuce, and some cheese. You can see how nicely that ground turkey is coming along now that Travis broke it up with that whisk. And before it's really cooked all the way through, we're going to add some spices without the salt. This is 2 teaspoons of coriander, 1 tablespoon each of onion powder and garlic powder, so just dried up onion and garlic, and then a tablespoon of chili powder, add more or less if you like, followed by like half a cup to a cup of water. And that water is important. It's going to help get these spices distributed throughout the dish, as well as help break up that meat a little bit more so you can spoon it in your taco nice and easy. And when it comes together, it's going to brown up, look a lot like this. And you could turn down the heat and just let it simmer so some of that liquid evaporates. Here's a look at those low sodium tortilla wraps with the fixins. Travis is just going to top each one with a little bit of salsa. Try to make sure yours is sugar-free for health and heart health reasons. And when your meat is done, it's going to be looking bubbly and delicious. That looks like taco meat to me. And the last thing, of course, is to try these tacos. We're going to spoon some of that ground turkey into those soft, low sodium tortilla shells. And Travis is going to see if those seasonings came together in this bite of a taco. What do you think, Travis? He loves it, and you're going to love it too. We'll see you guys next time.